The Minecraft game mode survival games is a classic, and even more so on the Hive, where it's one of the game modes that the server is best known for. The Hive's Bedrock Edition server has been going crazy with the updates recently, and one of those updates was a fairly major survival games update. In this video, I'm going to go over the update. I'll talk about what's changed, the implications of some of the changes, and talk about my opinion overall of the update. Before we start, however, if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe if you enjoy my content but haven't subscribed yet, that would be much appreciated. Now, enjoy this video on the new Hive Survival Games update. Alright, so since there are a lot of changes and things that are pretty different now, I think the best course of action would be to go through the changelog. This shows everything that was changed as a result of the update. Right off the bat, in the first paragraph of the changelog, it says that this update is a preview mode. What this means is that basically everything in the game is more or less experimental at this point. They're trying to gauge the public opinion on the new features and change things as needed if needed. With that being said, let's look at the first change, which is actually a new item called the activity tracker. When you hold it, it, quote, shows a display pinpointing points of interest such as enemies, supply crates, and teammates. Basically, it's a cell phone in your inventory that tells you where things are. Red dots are enemies, yellow dots are supply crates, and I would assume teammates, when the duos mode is released, will probably be green dots. Now, you may remember that this is what me and many other Hive players have asked for in the past for survival games. I literally talked about this in a video that I released over 4 months ago, as you can see here. Like I said, stuff that would combat this is a player tracker, for example. It just leads you to the closest player, and you can get fights a lot quicker because you just know where exactly to go. Now, a couple of things about this activity tracker. First, you have to be within a certain range of the supply drops or other players for it to actually register on the tracker, and you also can't use it in deathmatch for obvious reasons. I personally like to say that my phone dies whenever I make it to deathmatch with one. All in all, I think this activity tracker is a really solid addition to the game for players that want to play fast and go for kills. Next up on the changelog, they added a bunch of boomboxes to Hive survival games. Now, assuming that most of you have already played Hive Skywars, you'll know what half of these boomboxes do already. Specifically, the standard boombox, the frozen boombox, and the poison boombox are all in Hive Skywars already and are commonly used. I'm not going to go over those because they're pretty straightforward. However, there are also some boomboxes that are new to the Hive that were added. The first new one is the fire boombox. Basically, it sets the people around it and the ground around it on fire. The closer a person is to it, the longer they get set on fire for. The next new boombox we have is the cobweb boombox. When you use this, you're basically Spider-Man. You throw it at someone, it explodes, and they get surrounded by a bunch of cobwebs. The cobwebs aren't permanent though, and they do disappear a few seconds after the explosion. Now, I've actually seen a decent amount of people calling this boombox overpowered, and while it's a pretty decent boombox, I don't really think it's overpowered and see it more as a funny meme item. Like, you still gotta aim the boombox and actually hit your target with it, and also the cobwebs are there for what, like 3 seconds? You can also just avoid the boombox altogether if you're paying attention even a little bit. Overall, very cool item, but not as overpowered as people are saying it is. The last new boombox is the blindness boombox, which is fairly self-explanatory. When it explodes and there's a player nearby, they get blindness. The amount of blindness scales depending on how close they are to the explosion, and that's pretty much that. Definitely a cool concept, but I really haven't seen people use it that much. Oh yeah, one more thing, if you throw a frozen boombox in shallow water, the water becomes ice and you can be Elsa for about 5 seconds. Definitely a cool gimmick, but I doubt you'll see it used in any sort of meaningful way. Alright, now on to the next item of the changelog, which is teleporters. Like the changelog says, they let you go from point A to point B within the blink of an eye. The way that the teleporter works is fairly straightforward. You go in at point A and you arrive at point B, but if you go in at point B, you arrive back at point A, basically in a two-way system. There's also a little bit of a cooldown on the teleporter, but other than that, there's not too much to say about teleporters. They're a solid addition to the game, which I think we'll see more use as time progresses. With that being said, let's move on to the other mobility change, which is the addition of Launchpads. Basically, they're the Fortnite bounce pads. That's what they are. They're pretty cool though. Every map has set Launchpad locations, and they let you get to places that are difficult to get to. There are vertical Launchpads that launch you up like this, and there are also horizontal Launchpads that launch you to the side like this. Oh yeah, when you use Launchpads, you also don't take fall damage, which is obviously a good thing. Otherwise, you would kind of be dumb to use a Launchpad because you would take absurd amounts of fall damage. All of these mobility changes are really cool, and they promote different play styles. You don't have to just run around the map looking for players, you could fast travel using these and possibly sneak up on a kill. Moving on, another item that was added in this update are campfires. Funnily enough, they're also pretty similar to how the Fortnite campfire works. You stand in its radius and you get healed. One thing that's a little bit different is that you actually get set on fire if you walk over a campfire, because it is, after all, a campfire. You gotta be a bit careful around it because fire is dangerous. You can also place multiple campfires around the same area to have the heals stack, which is honestly pretty cool, but can also be a waste of campfires if you want to save them. Campfires do seem to be pretty common at the moment, however, so it is fairly standard to use multiple campfires to heal yourself up relatively quickly. The final item that was added to this SG update is the supply flare. It's another fairly self-explanatory item. You throw it on the ground and a supply crate drops on that location. However, a couple of things that you can't do that I tested is that you can't throw them on Launchpads and you can't take them to deathmatch. It just won't let you use them in either one of those ways. Now, with all of the new items out of the way, there are still a couple of other changes that I would like to talk about. First, they did a little bit of loot rebalancing, so in tier 2 chests, you're guaranteed a weapon and a piece of armor, and in the cornucopia, also more commonly known as mid chests, you're guaranteed a piece of armor, and there are a lot of weapons, but they aren't guaranteed. It also says on the changelog food rate increase, but I haven't noticed any changes with food yet. However, they said to send in your suggestions of what should be done with food, and I guess I'll go ahead and talk about what I think should be the role of food in survival games. Now, it's no secret that when you kill someone in survival games, your hunger completely resets to full, which means that if you're playing an aggressive game and getting kills, food really doesn't matter at all. As a result, to aggressive players, food kind of exists in the game and has no use. I think food in survival games needs to either be removed completely to be in line with the other Hive PvP game modes like Sky Wars and Treasure Wars where it just doesn't exist, or it needs to be actually given a use, like making it so that you can't regen if you have less than 8.5 hunger bars, and also reducing quickly enough so that it could affect your sprint if you're continuously running. At the moment, it takes a couple of minutes of full sprinting to actually get your hunger low enough to where it stops your sprint. Those are just my ideas for food and hunger in survival games, but if you have your own idea, let me know in a comment, because I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. A couple more less significant things that they added that I'm not going to spend too much time on. They added chest breaking, so if you punch a tier 1 chest, it just breaks and you get all the loot out of it. They made it so that you can't take fall damage and grace period anymore, and they also changed a lot of the models of the things like supply drops and cash cows. I think I've gone over all of the things that I think are significant enough to talk about in a video, but I'll be sure to leave the link to the changelog if you'd like to check it out for yourself. In this video, however, I'd also like to talk about my thoughts on the new SG update. Obviously, in the past, I've been a big proponent towards updating survival games since it's a game that I thoroughly enjoy, and honestly, from the new stuff that we've seen in this preview update, I think SG looks really good and fun and playable now. In the stream that is the background footage for this video, I was playing for about 2 hours, and to be quite honest, that 2 hours felt like about 30 minutes. Survival games is extremely fun to play now with all of this new stuff. The activity tracker makes it so that you can go get kills and play the game really fast if that's a playstyle that you'd like to adopt, which is the one that I usually play. And overall, some of the sillier things like the Launchpads and the Boomboxes make the game just overall fun and enjoyable. I know I've said this a lot with the Hive updates, but the Hive really hit the nail on the head with this update. It definitely took a lot of time and was in the works for a while, but that time turned into a really good product. And I'm really happy to see a game that was my childhood game receive some updates to make it fresh and enjoyable to today's audience. Thank you, Hive, for all of the hard work that you've put into this, and thank you for watching this video. Before we end the video, I'd like to give a shout out to my own Twitch, which, like I said earlier, was the background gameplay for this video. Right when this update went live, I started streaming, and quite a lot of you guys were there for that stream. However, I'm sure some of you might not have known that I stream on Twitch, so if you'd like to go give that a follow and not miss a live stream, there's a link on screen and in the description if you'd like to go give it a follow. Also, before we end, as always, I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members. They support me for $4.99 a month, and one of their perks is that they get their name displayed at the end of every video. If you'd like to check out what perks they have or become a member yourself, you can click the join button next to the subscribe button or click the link in the description to find out more. Once again, thank you to all of my members. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out. Nope, I'm about to get cleaned. Where did my arrow go? I'm dead here. Never mind. What's his health at? 2 hearts? Oh, that's why.